This video is brought to you by the University Writing Center, a unit of the Department of Rhetoric and Writing at the University of Texas at Austin. You can contact us at uwc.utexas.edu.
Hello, welcome to the presentation on starting a writing group brought to you by the UWC Grad Services. My name is Michael Dale, but this presentation is mainly based on the handout that was designed by Sarah Saylor and Tom Lindsay. So let's get started. The first type of writing group is known as a sustained writing group or a quiet writing group. And this is where a group of students, a group of grad students gets together and they each work on their own projects, and there's no feedback or anything like this in this type of writing group, and it's just quiet writing time, scheduled writing time. This might, if you've never experienced this type of writing group, it might sound a bit odd, but there are a lot of virtues to it, and they're actually quite popular. I'll talk about that more in a few minutes. But anyway, so this type of writing group, again, as I said, is mostly just quiet writing. However, there are sort of ways that group members keep track of their goals and they stay accountable. So you can use a Google Doc, you can use a Google Sheets spreadsheet, or we could just, at the beginning of the meeting, everyone goes around, talks about what they were writing on last week, what they're planning on writing this week. You know, for example, I'm working on my introduction to my thesis and I got one page done last week and I'm hoping to get a couple more pages done this week. So yeah, sort of an oral check-in, some way to keep group members accountable. One thing to keep in mind while doing this type of writing group and setting these types of goals is to keep the goals specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, or SMART. And we actually at the grad services we have sheets about setting goals in the writing groups, and you're welcome to email us and ask for these resources if you want for your writing group. But anyway, it's good to be specific about what type of goals, and again, always be realistic in your goals. And how, if someone wants to complete the introduction of one of their papers they're working on, it probably won't happen in one meeting, right? So maybe that could be a goal over the course of the whole writing group, over the course of 5 weeks or 7 weeks. For structuring the writing group, there are a few different ways. One way is you could use what's called the Pomodoro method. You could 25 minutes of work and then a 5-minute break. You could take people, have a snack and chat, or you could work longer. You could work for an hour and take a 10-minute break. Usually, as we'll talk about, usually these writing groups don't last for more than 2 hours, but it's good to have at least some type of break. Again, at the beginning, it's always good to have check-ins to keep group members accountable and on track for goals, just to have them keep their projects in the back of their head. And should always be open to change. If some of the writing group members want to change to the Pomodoro method halfway through, that's okay. Whatever works best. Okay, the second type of writing group is the peer review group. So this is the type of writing group where there is feedback. But it's important to know exactly what type of feedback you're going to be looking for and you're going to be giving, and it's always good to start small and set reasonable deadlines. So maybe the first couple pages of someone's draft every other week. You really don't want to overload people with this type of work. And always good to set clear expectations. So just everyone's on the same page. I'll submit a draft by 6 p.m. on Monday, and other people in the group should return comments by 12 on Thursday. Then, we can discuss the comments in the writing group Friday. And again, it's always everyone. You have to make sure everyone's on the same page and be specific about the expectations. So, there are lots of ways to sort of carry out this writing group. You can use Dropbox, UTBox, Google Docs. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with these types of processes that you could use. And as for specific sort of goals, again, it depends on what your writing group decides to do. But you could summarize, paraphrase the draft's main arguments. I mean, again, you're probably going to be working with people across disciplines, so you may not be able to get into the nitty gritty as much, but it is always helpful to, be able to go, look at the structure of a paper, to reverse outline um, a certain group of paragraphs. Um, and of course, um, then again, if you do want to make a writing group that's specific to a discipline, then you can do that and you can sort of get more into the details. But again, that just all depends on the group and what sort of expectations they have and what their needs are. But again, always start small. Okay, so this is the logistics page. I'm not going to go over the specifics here because this is kind of how to start a writing group when we're all on campus and in person. So this is information about reserving rooms, maybe going to a coffee shop. But right now, since we're all online, this isn't very applicable. But of course, you're welcome to pause the video here and see how one can go about reserving rooms. However, it's important to think about how to find members for your writing group. So don't just look around, at the people and contact the people you know. You could contact your department's grad student listserv, and also, encourage you to reach out to other disciplines. You could reach out to other grad student listservs. You could reach out to other graduate coordinators. You could attend writing the UWC services. Again, we're all online, but there are still services happening. I'll get into a bit more about reaching out to other disciplines later, but there are many ways to find people for a writing group. So if you look around and you don't see, 8, 9, 10 people that could start a writing group with you, don't worry. People often want to do this sort of a group, so they're very receptive when you email list service and such. Okay, so now let's get into some of the virtues of writing groups, why we do writing groups. Okay, so starting out with the purpose of a writing group. Again, going back to the quiet writing group, some might wonder why do we need 8 people to get in a room and quietly write? Well, actually, it seems to be, and it is very helpful for a lot of graduate students. Basically, you want to just schedule a time to write. You want to schedule a time to sit down and focus on your work. And when you have other people, your peers around you in the same room, you are encouraged and supported in a way that you're not when you're by yourself. And this encourages you to write. It encourages you to sit down and get work done, and it helps a lot of graduate students. Okay, so with that said, you might be wondering, well, okay, fine, that sounds great in person, but what about online? We're now all online. We're working remotely. So it's true, the transition to online has taken away some of the virtues of the in-person writing group, but not all. So actually, when we do online writing groups now, which we do just, you can do through Zoom very easily, you can keep your videos on, so there's some accountability, so there's some sense of community. It's always good to mute your audios because you don't want to hear people's typing or anything like that. But there is still a sense of community there, and it helps people get support and get some accountability and schedule some time to write. Okay, so we already talked about this a little bit, but um, again, with goals, it's always good to be, good to be aspirational. Like, if you're doing a writing group for the first 5 weeks of the summer or the first half of the fall semester, um, you might have an overall goal of completing the introduction of one of your papers or completing the introduction of your dissertation or something. Um, and that's great. It's great to be aspirational, but you should also be, don't overwhelm yourself. Don't try to, complete your introduction in 2 writing groups or anything like that. You don't want to continuously be disappointed. So set reasonable goals for each writing group, and that will depend, of course, on who you are and how you write. Okay, so leadership is important. Some people wonder, well, do we need a leader of the writing group? I mean, I don't know. I suppose it could be done without one, but it really does help to have one person who is responsible for organizing the meetings, for reaching out to everybody, for organizing the goal sheets, and just, to keep everyone accountable. So you can, of course, switch off leaders. If you want to do the first half of the summer session as one person's a leader and the second half another person's leader, that's great. But it always is good to assign one leader. But of course, it should be a democratic process where everyone votes and discusses the rules of the writing group. We'll talk a little bit more about the rules in a second. But okay, so time. So what days and times will you meet? How long will your meetings be? Some people go into these and they're really motivated, and they say, "Oh, I want to do a 4-hour writing group, on Tuesdays," and that's great. They're excited, but that's just going to be exhausting. 4 hours is too long just to sit and write. So we at the Writing Center, we usually do 1 to 2 hour meetings, and again, you can, if you're setting up your own writing group, you can talk with your writing group members and what would be best for them. But we recommend probably not going much over 2 hours, or else exhaustion will set in. All right, so duration and frequency. So again, on the same page as time. So, again, it's going to depend on the needs and desires of the people in the group. Some groups may want to meet twice a week. That's a lot. We at the Writing Center, we do once a week meetings because that's manageable. Again, if you want to do the feedback based writing group, it might be helpful to meet every other week because, it takes time to provide comments, to read drafts. But again, just, discuss this with your group, and usually people have a pretty good understanding of how much time they'll need, how often they want to meet. Okay, membership. This is important. So again, you can just look in your social circle of your friends and make a writing group, and that's great. But some of the most fun writing groups I've had at the Writing Center have been full of people from different disciplines. We have 8 or 9 people and a couple astronomers, a couple people in biology, some from English, some from philosophy. And it's nice to be in an interdisciplinary atmosphere, and you get to meet new graduate students, and perhaps during breaks you can discuss each other's work as well, which is always fun. Okay, it's always great to, at the beginning of the writing group, to sort of set any rules that people agree to. So, of course, everyone wants to be respectful of each other's space and time, but you can set other rules as well. Like, for example, in one of my writing groups, we had a no cell phone policy, so you're not allowed to pull out and use your cell phone, and it just helps people focus. Again, this is not for everyone. You should make sure everyone's on board before making any rules like this, but sometimes they can be helpful. Finally, again, this is another important reason to have a leader, to have someone be responsible for some of the between meeting activities. So, if, for example, there's a shared writing log, or if you're using a Google Doc about goals, and everyone's writing their goals for the week or for the overall session, you want to have a person who is responsible for monitoring that and making sure everyone sees it and gets out to everyone, making sure nothing really slips through the cracks. All right, and that's the presentation. Thank you so much for listening. Again, this is from the UWC Grad Services. So for more information, you can go to uwc.utexas.edu/grad, or you can email us at uwcgradservices@utexas.edu. Again, thanks.